Well, welcome once again to Hamlet Without Hamlet. I am Tim, your co-host for today. Joined once again by David on the keys over here.
Hello.
And my other co-host, Ian.
Hello, folks. Welcome back in. Tim, what are we going to discuss today?
Well, today we thought it would be fun, maybe a little bit cathartic, to discuss a piece of media. And we're thinking maybe music, movie, TV show, or some other type of media that got us through a hard time. Kind of share about what that hard time was and how this piece of media helped us heal, grow, whatever we took from it, and kind of dive into that a little bit. So I'm excited to learn more about you too. So that's it.
Back at you.
Back at you. So I'll dive in first. When I was sitting around thinking about this, a few TV shows popped into my head right away. And I think I have to go with Chuck. I don't know if either of you have seen it. Yes? No?
No, but you definitely mentioned it before.
No?
Yeah, you've talked to me about it, but I haven't watched it.
Okay. So this came about for me right at the tail end of a relationship coming out of college that I was broken up with. And it's one of the... I suppose technically that was a breakup right after high school, but it was really pretty mutual. So this is probably the only time I've been like dumped, and I was gutted. So I was at a pretty emotional low point. So I needed something that was fun and lighthearted and just kind of took me out of that. And I had a friend recommend Chuck, which is a fun comedy, action, adventure, romance TV show. And it was everything I needed. And I binged that 5 seasons in like a weekend and a half a week. At the time I was still living at home with my parents. I didn't have a full-time job. I had spent some time in China teaching English, and this was right after I came back. So I hadn't really done anything yet. I hadn't moved out to Los Angeles to do acting. So I was just kind of living at home and working part-time where I could get jobs. So I had extra time on my hands, and I think if I hadn't had something like this, it may have kept me either wallowing where I was or worse. So I have a big affinity for Chuck. 1, because it's a great show, and 2, because of that kind of emotional step it helped me take to get back to where I wanted to be, fall in love with TV and film production again, and kind of kicked off where I went over the next 4 or 5 years. So it's pretty big.
And would you say with Chuck, did you kind of see some of yourself in Chuck at all, or in characters on Chuck, or what? What kind of resonated with you?
I would say there's a lot of Chuck that I see in myself. He's kind of the happy-go-lucky, optimistic, nerdish but not nerd kind of dude that maybe didn't quite live up to his potential, but never failed on purpose, that kind of thing. I really love the relationships, especially him and his best friend Morgan, who've been friends since they were kids. And they're both trying to succeed in life, but haven't made it yet. So I think I had a little bit of that. And then also there's the fun kind of aspirational, because in the show, he becomes an asset for the CIA and the NSA, and they go on missions. And there's that whole what if that'd be cool? That's super cool.
Is there something you haven't told us, Tim?
You shut your face. So, there's lots of, there's he falls in love with the really pretty spy. Not that you'd fall in love with a spy, but at that point I didn't have a girlfriend because she just dumped me. I didn't have a wife, a fiance. I didn't have prospects. So it was like, maybe I could meet Yvonne Strahovski and fall in love with her. That could work. That could. It could. It won't, but it could. But also, it's just the mix of comedy and references to old movies and TV shows and music, and they have cameos to call back to other shows from Star Wars and Star Trek, and Magnum PI and Quantum Leap and like all the things that I had already enjoyed growing up, all kind of boiled into one really well done show. It really fit the bill. So that was new. I also watched a lot of Scrubs at that point, which brought me out of it as well, but I had already experienced and fallen in love with Scrubs. So Chuck was more of like a defining line in the sand of it got me out of where I had been and kind of set me up for what was to come. There you go.
Nice. I think that's a perfect segue for me to get into mine.
What do you got?
You just mentioned it. Scrubs.
Scrubs! Oh, Scrubby Scrubs.
Yes.
Say more.
It's a great show. You love it, so you could tell it for me, right? No, for me, Scrubs really... I found Scrubs early on in dating my now wife. And it was in a time of transition of life of kind of starting to be a young adult, figure out, okay, what am I? I got out of the Air Force. I'd met her. Things were kind of serious. And then, next thing you know, we're headed for family and kids and all. And I just think back to Scrubs and how much joy it brought me. And I don't think I realized what value I was getting out of it then until I started going back and watching it more now, because I've gone back now and the theme song at the start, that is like the epiphany of life. Like,
I can't do this all on my own.
Right.
No, I know. I'm no Superman.
He's the singer, folks. Not me. You're welcome. But yes, there's a lot of shows now, like you stream it and you can just skip the intro stuff. I listen to it every time because it just resonates so well. And I think it's a good reminder that you can't do it on your own. We're not Superman. None of us are. And then watching, I think, the reason I asked Chuck is when I watch Scrubs, obviously I'm not a doctor, didn't go to school for all that. But JD and like his heart and who he is and what he wants to do, and he's always striving to do well. But then he's got this mentor that's his mentor, but he's actually helping him, but he feels like he's being tormented and left aside, and they're just not seeing things the same way, and they don't teach the same way, they don't operate the same way. They're pretty much complete opposites. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that Dr. Cox doesn't mentor him and doesn't care for him and doesn't want the best for him. That's actually exactly what he wants, and he comes at it in his own way. His
very much his own
very colorful way. Very no BS. And I would say that I respond best in life to the Dr. Cox kind of coaches, mentors, leaders, the ones that just hit you with it. Mm-hmm. Like, that's one thing I don't have. I don't have the JDL emotional side of things.
Newbie, I just heard from the lab that your urine test came back positive for birth control. So I'm going to go ahead and take that man card from you. Shoot, I don't want to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But then, and I know we've talked about it before, but the 2-episode arc with Brendan Fraser in there. Mm. And just, like, I watched different TV shows and stuff growing up, and there's weight and things in them. Talked about TGI Friday and some of those shows and things I learned, but I think it was one of those where I watched it, didn't realize what was happening till we're about there, and all of a sudden it clicks. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, what? Just, and that was very early on in the show, and the weight of things that the real life things that they faced mm-hmm. were things that I could attach to and recognize, and then they made you laugh. And It was, the cast was incredible. I really hope when they bring it back, they do a good job with it here.
Yeah, they're setting it up. They're teeing it up. We'll see.
We'll see, because season 9, yeah. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about season 9 of Scrubs. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I will echo that. Like I mentioned, it was Scrubs was part of it for me. That's also a big tie into like one of my longest term and strongest relationships with my friend Luke. That's one of our things that we would watch together and quote all the time. So that's now inextricably linked to that relationship and that part of my life. But it was one of the first times that I saw a TV show that was meant to be funny deal with something so serious, so deftly, that made me stop and think. And maybe it was because I watched it when I was an adult versus, there was episodes of Boy Meets World that were serious. There was episodes of Home Improvement where Randy has cancer and there's moments of that. But when you're a 10, 12, 15-year-old, it doesn't hit like it does when you're a 24-year-old and maybe you had a friend that had cancer. And then this episode hits.
Yep.
Or the episodes with Michael J. Fox. Oh, yeah. Also fantastic. They kind of shake you up. And his performance is fantastic, but it's more of like, seeing the struggles that other people go through when you are worried about your own, when theirs are mountains and yours are these tiny little things. So it was perspective shifting for me beyond
Absolutely.
being funny and quotable.
I think one of the couple of things that stood out, I remember early on when Dr. Cox is teaching him, mentoring him, and one of the guys, JD's all excited because he's like, oh, he told me he's going to quit smoking. And Dr. Cox walks out, kicks the door open, and there's the guy. I swear it's my last one.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, they're going to lie to you. They're always going to lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
And just the reality of people mean well, but it doesn't mean they're always going to tell you the truth or ready to face the things that, we know they should. That and Dr. Cox and The Perfect Game, that episode, that one to go, you're bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, you're right there. And then it happens. And then Dr. Reed's, no, well, you don't have to call it yet. 1 minute away. And he's like, no. Integrity. No, that's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. And it was seeing things like that, real things that carry the weight and you're rooting for it and then it just falls short. But then he's a man of character. And that's, so I go back to that frequently and often. I just need to zone out or life's been a little rough. It's easy just to turn that on and just enjoy, laugh. Once in a while, it might get a little tense. That was the wrong episode to watch. Son of a gun. Well,
Have you seen it?
I have not seen Scrubs. No, that is one I have not sat down to. There's, I've seen clips here and there, and it looks like an absolute stitch.
Mm-hmm.
But no.
I
Do you know where it is right now these days?
Like to watch it?
Yeah.
No.
It's been between Hulu, Paramount. It's moved around a bunch.
Yeah. I'd have
Probably
to go
have,
look.
But
I probably
Dan-
have some DVDs at home that I know I do. I just
But
don't
jumping
watch.
off of that
Yeah.
kind of segues us into you. What would be your first thing?
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to transition us over to music for my first one. So, because we were talking about kind of coming into being an adult, I had an interesting experience for a few years there where I was working essentially full-time and going to school essentially full-time. And I say essentially because sometimes it was full-time, sometimes it was full-time plus, and sometimes it was part-time, right? So there was some movement there, but essentially I was a full-time employee for the majority of the time that I was chasing my degree the second time, which not for this.
Different episode, folks.
But I'm, introvert to extrovert to scale, right? And I kind of lean pretty heavy on the introvert scale. I love people, but I need some time to recharge. I love talking about ideas, but I don't want to be in a room with a bunch of people I don't know with an unknown end time. That sounds rough. So networking has always been kind of tough. But I was an introvert in an extrovert's job while going to school full time as well. And so a lot of my days, it would be, I work 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then I would drive, and night classes started at 6. And so they would go 6 to 10:30 at night. And I would drive home, get home around 11:15, have something to eat, and try to be in bed by 1 to go be at work at 7 the next morning again. So yeah, that was a pretty intense part of my life. And one of the ways I got through it is that often when I would get home, I would go and sit in the dark by myself and listen to music. And one of the recurring things I would go back to over and over and over is Tool's Lateralis album. They had some other stuff I liked too. But the journey that you can take with that album and the different orders in which you can listen to it was really neat. And then the way progressive metal kind of starts calmer and builds over time. When you're in a really, really depleted state, you can sit there in the dark with very little stimulation, put that music on, and then let the music build. And it would build me back into being ready for what was next. So, yeah. So sitting in the car by myself, listening to that, sitting at home in the dark, like in the basement usually, listening to it myself, and then kind of using that to recharge and get to where I needed to go next was formative. And also those guys are way too smart to just, I know they don't just play music, but they're way too smart for some of the music. The themes in that album are pretty cool, pretty neat.
Wow. Oh, and the depth of the instrumentation, the things that they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched way too much of just the drumming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's top drummers in the world. Mm-hmm. Look at what he does and go, no, how is that even possible?
Yep.
Where did he come up with that?
Yeah.
So, and no doubt, it's definitely a journey.
Yeah.
Like I'll say, I'm not a diehard Tool fan by any means. I definitely have to be in the mood, but there's no doubt that it is very well designed, well planned. And if you appreciate art and music, mm-hmm. you may not like it, but you have to recognize what there is in it.
Yeah.
Because it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, just sitting down and listening to Parabol and then Parabola, listening to those back to back. It's about 10 or 12 minutes. And if you just let yourself sit with it, listen to what's going on in the music, both the lyrics and the way they're doing the tempo and the time, the time signature and the drumming for that piece is wild. And then if you understand what they're referring to mathematically, you realize that the time signature they're doing is intentional and it's wild. And then stacked on top of that, they're using that math as an analog for philosophy of how you approach life. It's a great experience. It's really fun. So, yeah. And their music is more available than it used to be. 10 years ago, it was a little harder to get their stuff.
Yeah.
Outside of, just buying physical albums. So yeah, check it out. Parabola. Some of their other stuff gets explicit. So,
yeah, not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. But yeah, also the 10,000 Days album, there's like portions of that 10,000 Days album that you can pull out, and it's an experience that goes along. Wings for Marie is just amazing. So yeah, so that's one of my long-term return tos.
Wow. I have not heard it. I mean, I think the idea of bands layering themselves and creating different soundscapes through different listenings or different orders, or I know one that I experienced was the Flaming Lips with Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots. I think they released like 4 different versions of that, and when you play all 4 of them together at the same time, it creates this whole new sound than you listening to it. You don't have to listen to them together, but they are created so you can.
Mm-hmm.
So
Fascinating.
yeah,
I did not know that.
man. I don't know many songs by the Flaming Lips, but I do like that song and a few of those on that album. But well, speaking of music, a similar time frame for me. So this 2009 era into the 2011-12 was a little bit of a renaissance for one of my favorite bands of all time, Relient K. Not as big on the mainstream market. They did have some crossover success from kind of Christian contemporary music to mainstream in like 2005-06. But I think their best album is 2009's Forget and Not Slow Down. And that kind of brought me back into the fold of them. But also I listened to that song a lot when I first moved to California. And acting out in LA can be a very solo existence. You build up friendship groups over time, but it doesn't happen right away. So for the first 3, 4, 5 months I was there, it was pretty much like, unless I was in my apartment with my roommates, I was kind of out driving to auditions or trying to find auditions or submitting myself online or trying to find an agent, and most of this I was doing on my own and trying to figure it out on my own. And that album I had that one almost on repeat. So there's songs about learning about who you are, diving into therapy, diving into past relationships and healing old wounds, and driving forward in life. And a lot of that spoke to me. The way they created the album, song listing wise, sonically, and just fit the time of my life to help me progress. So I still go back to it. It's great. Anyway, there's that.
Yeah. Awesome. Lion K is one that I definitely have listened to more in recent time. I didn't grow up with it like you did, but I've definitely enjoyed the ride.
Mm-hmm. Shout out, Matt Thiessen. Thank you. Matt Hoops. Like and comment. Anyway, they're still active. Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
So, well, if we're staying on the vein of music, which I can definitely jump in on that and probably could make a whole list off of that. I'm going to be going back to the well of something I know I've mentioned before, but Linkin Park. And as I thought about this topic, so Meteora is by far the most influential for me and the most powerful, but it started with Hybrid Theory. Because Hybrid Theory, when I found that, was just like right after getting stationed out, and I don't know if that's when it got released. I think it had to be, it got released just after I got stationed in California in the Air Force. And music has always been my thing. Like when there's nothing else, I can just turn on some tunes and just take a journey. And that new metal, I'm new metal till I die. Some of that's coming back and I'm loving it. I'm just
now it's old metal.
Hey, that's okay. I'll get down with it. My knees can squeak and creak and I'll still get down on it. But no, so Hybrid Theory came out and I only had a couple CDs that I listened to, and I would listen to those. That was one that I played on repeat a whole bunch, and trying to find myself in the military, dealing with, kind of what you're saying when acting. When you get stationed in the military, you don't know anybody. You got the people you work with in the shop, and some people you might have to do different things with, but developing friendships or getting to meet people can take some time. And then next thing you know, you make a friend and then they deploy. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that's cool. Or you get split up in squadrons, you don't see each other as much. So it was something that was a consistent, and I remember Hybrid Theory playing the life out of that. And then people nowadays won't know, but when an album came out, you had to, plan the day it came out, drive to the store, hope it was on the shelf because you had to go after your shift of work. Hope it wasn't already cleared out. I remember going to the Best Buy in California. Had to be, was it in Fairfield? Yeah, I think. Anyways, that's less important than. But I remember driving there to get it, popping it in, and Meteor stayed in for a long time. And it was a very comfortable, depending on where I was in the day, I could pick a song that fit for where, if I needed to just rage, they had it covered. If I needed to, didn't feel like I had somewhere I fit in or something, somewhere I belong maybe, I could find something on there for that. Don't Stay is my favorite on the whole album, which is, it's Linkin Park. I think everything on there is popular. But I almost was challenged, is it fair to be Linkin Park because they're so popular? Am I just part of the mob out there?
You're part of the system, man.
But my listening goes way deeper than just Linkin Park. And I also listen to the whole album of people, not just one song.
Yeah, he likes you too as well. No?
I missed that on camera. Go ahead, do that again.
Blasphemy. Do they have a couple songs?
It's a beautiful day!
Hey.
Still haven't found what I'm looking for.
I wouldn't have known who they were if their stuff wasn't installed on my
Automatically, yeah. That was great. Why do I have this? Oh, well, you fell asleep, and we put it there.
Yes.
We'll take it off. We shouldn't have done that. You want to keep it?
No.
No.
Took my computer in for repair, came back with U2 on it. Yeah. So, yeah, another big defining point in my life of becoming my own person, an adult, and yeah, I can go back to that anytime, and just depends on the mood for which song off the albums. And I can play a lot more of their catalog, but
yeah,
those two are, that Meteoric gets spun a lot. So
nice.
yeah. You got something else over there, David?
Well, of course I do. But I think it's interesting you decry popular stuff. Let me give you something that is somewhat popular, but also kind of mundane. There is a show that I just keep going back to recently, because there's been some things that have been rough recently. And it is Forged in Fire. There's no story. It's very consistent. You know what's going to happen.
It will kill.
It will kill. Right? It will cut. It will kill.
We need a blade that's 17 inches.
Yeah.
9 inches of tang.
Yep.
Damascus steel.
Yep.
Anyway, I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm picking up on that. I'm picking up. So that one for me has been interesting because I can turn my brain off. And that doesn't happen very often. My brain runs hot. It runs all the time. I do not rest well. And so, yeah, so having something where I know what the formula is, I can watch it. It's interesting. They're building something. There's a time component. The time component makes the creativity super under pressure, and yeah, it's just kind of, it's relentlessly positive as well, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody swears. Well, sometimes when they cut themselves, but pretty much, no cussing.
No one's sabotaging.
No, they help each other, mm-hmm. right? Nobody wants to win because the other person fails. They all want to win because their thing is good, right? Yeah, so it's a fun one to continue to return to, and I don't need to worry if I zone out in front of that and my kids show up, right? I can't watch mature stuff. I don't have the late teens kids or the adult kids that, I'm like, oh, what's dad watching? I have to actually be a little careful. And those are ones I can throw on. And if I fall asleep on the couch, they come down like, oh, this is cool. They like it. And it encourages creativity in my sons as well. So
Have you seen it?
I've seen clips. I haven't seen the actual.
It's great. I'd love to try blacksmithing, but you know,
It's-
the version you see on there, while real, is always obviously condensed, and you're not in this hot room. You're not swinging this hammer, but it sure looks like a difficult but really fun, rewarding time.
I can say I got to do it a couple times through different things with Boy Scouts, and I will say it was definitely fun. I don't remember. like,
Bang.
I'm sure it was hot. I'm sure it was, but I don't remember that part. I just remember the getting it hot, smashing it, get it hot, smash it. Mainly, I just remember smashing it a lot.
Yeah.
Which is fun though. Like taking something and forming it into something new
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I do have a friend that teaches blacksmithing in Minneapolis. So depending how serious you're about it, I haven't pulled the trigger yet. And my oldest is still too young to do it. So I was kind of waiting for that. But yeah, if you want to talk to somebody about learning, yeah, he'd be a fun guy. I assume he still teaches, right? It was a side gig for him. Kind of a third or fourth job sort of deal. On call when people asked for it. But yeah,
Very interesting. Have you seen Blown Away?
I've seen some. Yeah.
That is a very similar engagement and enjoyment for me with Forged in Fire. Have you seen it? It's essentially Forged in Fire, but for glass blowing.
Yeah.
And it's very same thing. They're all in the same glass blowing space. They give them a theme or an idea, and they have, an hour to 5 hours to come up with, plan, and create these installments. And then you're trying to do your best, not get other people to fail. And then they judge them based off of creativity, execution, and just, I've always thought blowing glass was cool, but seeing what they can do and then doing it so quickly is mind-boggling. Just to the creativity of people that are just there to do their best and hone their craft is really cool, and such a age-old skill like blacksmithing and glass blowing to just Forged in Fire is like, it's all heavy and dense and make it solid, and the glass is just this fragile, delicate thing, but the artistry within each is really fascinating.
Absolutely.
So slight divergence and not exactly on topic, but did you see Knife or Death? Okay, so Knife or Death was a spin-off of Forged in Fire where they took people who brought weapons that someone had made for them or they had made themselves, and then they ran through a timed course where they had to accomplish certain tasks. And it was like watching UFC 1 again. It's so interesting because people have these dogmatic ideas around, like, I'm going to bring a katana and the katana is going to beat everyone else because katanas are awesome and they cut through steel, So they'll have a guy show up with a katana and then compete against somebody who's got a 16-inch chopper, right? And one guy shows up with a Zweihander. Like the sword is as tall as him, and his cuts, he's winding on his cuts because you can't cut the same way. So it's really fascinating to watch and see. So it's similar to UFC 1, which I know I can refer to with you here, Aaron, where you have people showing up with vastly different skill sets and you have no idea what's going to succeed. It's super cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're probably done with that show.
Okay.
But it was fun to watch. So they initially had some stationary targets. They had like some targets for speed, some targets for cutting power. There were things that you would do a lot better on if you had a longer blade. There were things you'd do a lot better on if you had a straight blade versus a curved blade. They had moving targets, which those were skill oriented as well. So it's kind of fun to watch. But yeah, little side rant.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Off topic.
My last thing is going to be a movie. I again, like you mentioned, I could have 15 options
Yeah,
here.
which one are you picking?
Yeah. So I'm gonna toss it back to one of my favorite comedies of all time. It's called Grosse Pointe Blank. Have you seen it? Yeah. Yes. Oh man. See what I'm dealing with. Anyway,
we could have a watch party. Somebody had like a theater type space, and we could record
if
it,
only. If only.
and then we could show it to Tim and see how our reactions are.
I'm telling
What do you think,
it,
folks?
It could be a hit. It could be a hit. Yeah, Grosse Pointe Blank, a dark comedy with John Cusack, Jeremy Piven, Hank Azaria, Minnie Driver, Dan Aykroyd. The list goes on. It's eminently quotable. It was one of the first R-rated comedies I'd seen that I like actually connected with. And it's a similar feel with Chuck in terms of like guy hasn't reached potential people think he should, and he's coming back home. The basic plot is he's a successful assassin who's grown distasteful of it and is contemplating retiring, and he goes back home for his 10-year high school reunion and tries to reconnect with his high school girlfriend who he dumped on prom night to join the army to become an assassin eventually. So he has these ideas of like, I'm just gonna go tell her and we'll happily ever after, and she's still mad at him for leaving her in her prom dress. He might be there to do one last job or maybe not. He's still figuring it out. It's fantastic. Alan Arkin is one of the best parts of the movie. I got to chat with him about that role. But it came to me at a time when I was, I don't know, a similar thread I'm hearing with all of these is that like that transition from youth, young adult to adult. And seeing him kind of go through that similar thing. Obviously, I'm not a trained assassin who's worried about if I made the right career choices, but there's moments of going back, thinking back, well, what if I were to have made a different choice here? What would my life be different? Would it be better? Could it be worse? Potentially. And this came at a moment when I was at a little bit of a crossroads and I picked one versus the other, and that allowed me to kind of do the catharsis around, didn't have to be the perfect choice. You make the choice, the right choice by how you live your life after, not saying, oh God, I should have done that. And so that, again, gave me that mirror, that lens to hold up to myself to be like, all right, I'm never going to make all of the perfect choices, but I can make this one the right choice and be totally content with the choices I've made and do the best I have with where I've put myself and not look back in the rearview mirror and wonder what if. So, highly recommend.
Mm-hmm. I'll put it on the list, folks.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, golly, dudes. You're a handsome devil. What's your name?
It's Ian. I thought you knew that.
10 years, man. 10 years. Anyway.
Quotes from the movie, folks, I
Yes,
think.
yes. Either he's in love with that guy's daughter or he found a newfound respect for life. Anyway. That's what I got. Those are my three.
All right. Well, as the third, I'm a video game guy. I do enjoy video games. They're a good way to check out in times of life or just get some entertainment, or it's a good escape. And the easy go-to would be, I kind of really got into RPGs, and like the Elder Scrolls series were a lot of fun, and the Fallout games, I've enjoyed those. The newer ones, not the over-the-top ones, which I would play, but I just never had them when I was younger. But then I wasn't sure, but as you shared and you talked about just the Forged, and just how, you know what it is, it's simple, it's mundane, I don't have to think about it, I can shut my brain off and everything I'm saying is just like right on the top. But Minecraft, really, when that came, I didn't play it when it first came out. I avoided it because I was afraid I'd lose my entire life to it. I still have a job, folks, so I haven't, as far as I know. But it was, I'm trying to think of how old the kids were. Probably 8 years ago now. So 5 and 10 probably or so. Something like that the kids were. And just the wife and I slogging through life. And we as a family had brought Minecraft into the house, and we would put the kids to bed. And Katie and I would sit there and just build, mine. We always played in peaceful mode. Sorry, folks, I'm not into the getting murdered by all the things out there. It's too stressful. I play it to just mine things, harvest things, build things, and relax. And it's something that I can do that. Just turn the mind off, or as we're decompressing from the day, Katie and I could sit there and just build things. Oh, what do you want to build? Like, she likes to build things. I like to go forage and find and mine, and I'd go down into mines and just like strip for an hour and a half. Not that kind of stripping, folks.
That is a slow striptease.
Nobody ever claimed I was fast.
Anyway.
But there is something cathartic about just being able to sit down and just kind of zone out on something that you know what it is. There's nothing great accomplished out of it in the end of it. But then something that sharing with my wife that we can bond over, connect. And there's times where we would just hour, 2 hours, we'd say maybe 2 words to each other. That was it. But just, we're on a mission together. We're doing this thing. Here we are. And I can still, if life's really just hectic, I need to shut everything off, just get into that and just spend a couple hours just not thinking about anything and create something weird. Because you can create a lot of weird things. And at the end, I end up with a nice log cabin next to a river, like I do like every time I play. But I always say I'm going to create something weird. And then somehow I create the same things again. What are you going to do?
I added a third window this time.
Mm-hmm.
Purple glass instead of regular glass.
Interesting. I've literally never played it. I've never had the opportunity or really the desire. So I truly have no concept of what it is. I've seen clips and basically what you've described, but the functional doing, I don't know.
Did you grow up with Legos?
Kind of, yeah. I did more Erector set than Legos, but yeah.
Some. Like Legos was my childhood. Like that's like the toy I had. And so Minecraft to me is a lot of building with Legos without making the mess. That's a lot of what it is. I can construct, create things, just whatever my mind thinks of.
I mean, like I've seen people recreate like sets from TV shows.
Oh yeah. Cities.
Mm-hmm.
Make their own batteries.
I've seen like the whole city of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But I know you and Diane used to do World of Warcraft together.
Yeah, we did. We did for a while, a couple of years. So that's a whole nother thing. That's a very social game. That's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, like, because that was right when you were. I think you were either still dating or just had gotten married, and I would sometimes come over and. I mean, you guys would. I know you were in the same guild together, and that was kind of similar to you and Katie, like a little bit of that kind of relationship stuff and bonding.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always fun to see. But I also have literally never played it. So.
yeah.
And now with that, a game like that for an introvert, is it still fulfilling or can it be taxing as well because of the amount of interactions that are required?
Well, required is the key word there. And then also, if you look at MMOs over time, it's very, very different. So
Fair.
yeah, so for my wife and I, we played World of Warcraft together 2005 to 2007. So right after we got married, a few months after we got married until a couple of years later when our schedules got too busy and it didn't make sense. And then I actually dropped off, stopped playing for over a year because I just had too much going on and I had some other reasons to not be there. And because she and I together were running a giant guild. And it just, it got to the point where one of these things had to break. So, so that was, I don't know. So for any knowledgeable viewers, because I know there's a lot of people who have played the game, we played vanilla and we played part of Burning Crusade. And then as we were making our way through the end of Burning Crusade, and when I say the end, I mean the raid bosses, because we got all the way to max level quickly. We were a part of the race to get to max level as fast as you can to get server firsts and world firsts, and we didn't get world firsts, but the two server first people on our server were Iran and Iraq, and I was Iran, not spelled like the country, and he was Iraq, not spelled by the same way as the country, and we were racing the whole way up, the two of us. Anyway, so anyway, we played a lot, too much probably, but it was a great bonding time for us for sure. And then leading a group of people together, that's not what we expected when we started playing. We just we met up with this group. Stuff needed to happen. I had some initiation energy. She's very organized. Between the two of us, we kind of started making things happen. And then there was a guild merger for two large guilds, and we ended up with around 150 people, 170 some uniques, unique characters, but around 120 to 150 people at any given time. We were running multiple raids every week, 40-person raids. And then when Burning Crusade came out, they reduced everything to 25-person raids instead of 40-person raids. And so things split off like wild. But at the end of vanilla, when we were still running that group of 120 to 150, the leader and his wife left, and he didn't want somebody else to run it, so he put me in charge. So then she and I took over and ran it for a while. But yeah, so that was interesting because this is where I get back to required. I've meandered a little bit. It was not that exhausting when we were enjoying playing. Once we got to the point where I couldn't possibly talk to everyone and keep everyone happy, because that's an enormous group of people, I had to figure out who the factions were. And okay, if I keep this person happy, he will take care of all of his friends. I will keep this person happy. He'll take care of all his friends. If I take care of this gal, she drags a bunch of people with her. And so I just had to figure out who were the key people to identify. And that actually played into my management style 10 years later when I was managing in corporate. So that's interesting too. Just figuring out how to keep people happy, and everyone's a volunteer. That's the other thing. Nobody works for you in a game. That was a much more involved answer than you were looking for, but
Leroy Jenkins.
Well,
I like it.
I always laughed. I spent so much time in that particular dungeon, and that particular thing, Leroy doing that particular thing, was a nightmare. That would cost you hours. And it's people who don't play the game. Did he just run in?
He just ran in.
Yeah. People who didn't play the game didn't realize that that's something where you'd spend an hour and a half getting there, and then you do your planning, and then you go in, and when one person goes in alone in that particular area, everyone dies, because you start a cascade and you can never catch up with the cascade. So you just get annihilated. So that's part of why Leroy Jenkins is so funny for the people who are in the know. But yeah, okay, that was a really long answer.
Interesting.
You should cut this bit.
All right. You heard it here, folks. Cut
it out.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's been a blast. That's been our dive into our, mostly healed past or not. Thank you for taking the journey with us. Let us know what yours are in the comments. I'll be excited to kind of read along with you and see what's helped you progress, grow, develop, inspire you, whatever. So thank you all. For Hamlet Without Hamlet, I'm Tim.
And I'm Ian. Until next time, take care.